Greetings and happy Halloween, everyone! This is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. In today's video, we look at one of my top 5 favorite episodes from Season 2, and my 3rd favorite holiday special overall. Today's episode is titled Tricked. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. It's almost Halloween, and everyone in the Loud House will be celebrating in their own way. Lucy and her older sisters will be holding a haunted corn maze, Lola, Lana, Lisa, and Lily going trick-or-treating to score the most candy, even though their dad is terrified beyond belief, and Lincoln and Clyde have their own trick-or-treat excursion, which includes sneaking into a rich neighborhood that gives out full-size candy bars. However, everyone's plans are ruined when 2 older kids trash their neighborhood and steal everyone's candy after Lincoln and Clyde tricked them to going to Franklin Avenue. With a little help from the family, Lincoln and Clyde manage to scare the bullies into never coming back to their neighborhood again. The episode ends with the townsfolk returning to Lucy's corn maze and Lincoln and Clyde giving away their full-size candy bars so everyone can have a happy Halloween. Except for Mr. Loud, of course. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. The most common theme in most animated Halloween specials is that they dabble in the supernatural or something that's legitimately real and scary. However, this special from the Loud House doesn't do any of that. It takes the simple idea of trick-or-treating and having a corn maze and gives the impression of how the entire story could take place in our own lives, and when it comes to acknowledging any amount of real-world authenticity from a cartoon, this episode right here does a great job of it. They could have taken advantage of the fact ghosts truly exist in this universe like we saw in Argue for Real, but personally, I'm glad they didn't. We were given a more realistic storyline like the Christmas special had earlier in the same season, and it deserves a lot of praise. I really liked the many different costume designs for the characters. Lola and Lana's triple costume idea, for example, was very creative and very convincing, I may add. What really took me by surprise was how Lisa was all on board with dressing up for the holiday, something you would think she would classify as painstakingly pedestrian. I guess when it comes to candy and remembering she's still 4 years old, it's worth going out in public dressed as a kangaroo. And let's just admit right now, Lily's costume was the most adorable and Lisa deserved all the candy in the world for it. She was too cute. And no, Lisa, it's not a baby Roo, it's called a Joey. You know, for someone who likes to pride herself on knowing the street names and scientific classifications for animals, you'd think she'd be more upfront about what she's really carrying in that pouch of hers, but I digress. The best part of the entire episode was the haunted corn maze montage accompanied by Luna's song, You Got Tricked. The visuals throughout the sequence were very well done, and the acting by everyone in the family was terrifyingly tremendous. As for the music itself, the opening organ rhythm was so spooky that it was actually very lively when it transitioned into the main verse and chorus. And for real, Luna just stole the show at that point. Not to take anything away from Lucy, of course, since she was the one who made sure those guys got exactly what they deserved for ruining her long-awaited night, but that's where I do have to acknowledge that one elephant in the room that sorta gets overlooked. At the beginning of the episode, it's made abundantly clear that Halloween is Lucy's favorite holiday. Probably her own version of Christmas, if you think about it. She knows scary when she sees it, and what needs to be improved upon in order for something to be made very scary. Between ensuring her family's costumes were convincing and what was going to draw people's attention, you would think this episode would be more dedicated to her, and that's one of my personal gripes with this episode. Even though she played an important role, the story barely focused on her, and it's a greatly missed opportunity. You may agree or disagree, but in my opinion, Lucy should have been the real star of this special, and yet she had to take a backseat to Lincoln and Clyde, the enablers of the conflict. That's not to say I blame them for what happened in their neighborhood in terms of intentionally creating the conflict, since they honestly didn't think those guys would trash the place. I still give them credit for trying to get back all the stolen candy, even going so far as to getting turned into literal human pretzels. Here's looking at you, Lori. By the way, they give up their full-size candy bars to the smaller kids, effectively letting all their planning to get them go down the tubes, and that was a mature sacrifice on their part. They learned right then and there that it's more fun to give it away than it is to take for yourself. That's what I learned when I got older and stopped going door to door every year for candy, so that was a good moment of growth for Clink and McCloud. However, there is one criticism I do have with them when it comes to their trick-or-treat planning, but I can't really say it's their fault. Now, I give props to them for doing a lot of homework and preparation in order to find a neighborhood that gives out full-size candy bars, and yet their biggest challenge of getting inside the gated community was impersonating two English kids who just happen to look almost like the two of them. Say what you will, but that comes off as way too convenient. It also doesn't help when you realize how the guy standing outside the gate can't tell the difference between the two sets of kids. For Clyde, I guess you could make that mistake since there does seem to be a bit of a similarity with his counterpart, but if you can't tell the difference between blonde and white hair, then I don't know what to tell you. All this intense studying and planning just to make getting through the gate, the hardest part of the operation, rather easy based on sheer facial coincidence, doesn't quite fit the mold in my book. One last thing I want to talk about would be the characters Hawk and Hank, the two bullies from The Loudest Yard. Other than being your run-of-the-mill generic jerk characters, they pretty much got what they deserved for all the damage they caused. You know, for a bunch of middle schoolers, they sure got easily scared by a fake haunted corn maze. Or maybe Lucy is just that convincing. Anyway, the only other thing I can say about them is they seem to have a very strange connection. Hank always feels the need to do whatever he thinks Hawk is going to do. I mean, it's one thing if you're going to throw up if someone else throws up and maybe pass out, but to say you're going to get a stomach cramp if someone else gets one, yeah, this seems like a very disturbing relationship with many gray areas, and I think it's in my best interest to just leave it at that. One more thing, and this is regarding Luann's mad scientist costume. If they ever make another Halloween special in the future, perhaps it would be a good time to make that semi-sentient Mr. Coconuts finally come to life. There are so many instances of him doing his own thing without Luann's hand up his back, so let's hope the writers don't squander a golden opportunity such as that. Make it happen, Nickelodeon! Overall, I really love this episode, and there's not too many Halloween specials from Nickelodeon that I can say come off as very enticing. Besides my minor nitpicks about Lincoln and Clyde easily getting into the rich neighborhood, and my grievance about Lucy being robbed of the starring role for a story more suited for her character, there's honestly not too much to complain about. The many different costumes worn by the kids, the song, the visuals, practically everything else just clicked so well, and when you realize the story doesn't have to go supernatural in order to make a scarier tale, you come to deeply respect that slice of life aspect the show is known for. With that said, I give Tricked a 9.8 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Tricked. What else can I say other than this is how you do a Halloween special right, and you'll enjoy this one year after year. So what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Happy Halloween! Yes, anyway, peace out, home slices.